Hello, citizens of the future. Citizen of the future here. Welcome back. It's been a little while, and boy, do I have some of the world's highest arcing news for all you ones that are paying attention to this digital revolution that I've been researching about for years. Oh, big, big full circle breakdown. What I want to say is congratulations, citizens. I can't say this enough. We are at the forefront of the fourth industrial revolution. 99% of the world is completely asleep in this transformation happening towards the global trade system and the supply chain. We are going from paper to a digital system. And everyone out there is distracted, disconnected, and divided by the mainstream media news, because the mainstream media news is not covering what they should be. Everyone should be awake, but everyone is asleep. Today, if you guys remember, you guys have watched my research videos and that I've left a lot of breadcrumbs towards this. The UK, the leader of the G7 nations, the kings, they just got royal assent for the electronic trade documents bill. And this is giving a definition for digital documents for global trade to be utilized. I'm going to take you guys and I'm going to break down some of the content that I've shared with you guys over these last 2 years to try and inspire you guys to dig into the regulated connections compared to all those influencers out there that are trying to shill you to shit coins and meme coins, trying to dump bags off you guys. Guys, it's not about the meme coins. It's about the tokens with real world utility. My account started back in November 2021, and utility theory was my username because I was learning all this stuff about these ecosystems that have a real world use case, and it was all a theory. But now this theory has been coming true for the last 2 years, and that's the crazy thing. Is these connections that I share and educate you guys on, I'm trying to bring that awareness because I see how mainstream media is covering this up. So let's talk about this. There's a bunch of different things here. I'm going to find it, but here it is. This is a historic moment for trade. The trading system has remained largely unchanged since the 1800s in how it operates, with many processes dominated by paper and unnecessary bureaucracy. Check out some of the reports that I wrote with Genfinity.io, where I broke down each one of these reports. Took me about 25 hours, around 25 hours. This is called The Grid #1, first edition. This was in July 2022. And I brought to you guys a very deep dive talking to you about how broken the global trade finance industry and the supply chain is. And the ecosystems, this is just a fraction of some of the regulated ecosystems. Look at, the ICC, the ones that are talking about this trade transformation. The House of Lords, we got XDC, we got Quant, Impel. This is just for the trade finance industry. This isn't as for all the other cryptos as a whole. This was strictly writing about digital trade and how the paper in trade is extensive. The cost of documentation, 20%. So imagine that the global supply chain costs at least 20% just because of using paper. There's 28.5 billion paper documents in the world, and if you stack that all in 1 year, you stack that all on top of each other, that equals 39,187 approximately statues of liberty tall stack of paper. Guys, this transformation that we are entering, and what I've shared research with you all, I hope you're paying attention, because this is a once in a lifetime, in a multi-generational lifetime, do we get to be aware of this before it actually happens. I break it down talking about the siloed systems across global trade, the trade finance gap, and how DLT, digital documents, and tokenization using NFTs for trade finance is going to change the game. It's just crazy seeing this, that it's coming true. And I want you guys to know that there's a lot of research to be done. If you're just chasing meme coins, it's time to wake up. I'm telling you this because this is bizarre. And I've seen it coming, and I've been trying to get you guys inspired, but sadly my content, it gets de-amplified. Not many people are interested in learning about how the real system works, what's changing. But there's a historic moment going on. This act, the electronic documents, the Bills of Exchange Act of 1882. It hasn't been updated for 140 years, something like that. And now we're about to get digital documents in global trade. This is going to reformat our supply chain. This was in February of 2022. ICC trade conference. Are we ready to trade digitally? And here I am saying, yes, we are ready. Let the global jurisdictions upgrade their English law so we can use digital documents in the supply chain and trade finance industry. And what did I attach? The G7, the G20, Andre Casterman, salute to you, sir. Zinfin, XDC, Inigio, Impel, Monetago, Trade Trust. Blockchain technology for cross-border trade with the ICC, the United Nations, Asian Development Bank, ITAFA, Trade Trust member, MineHub, TradeLens, DLT Ledgers, TradeWaltz, and Inigio. We are entering the top. Look at this. Remember how this citizen of the future for the last couple of months has been trying to hint to you guys to research MLETR? What is MLETR? It is model law on electronic transferable records. And this was created to create a framework for digital documents to be standardized across the globe. Just remember, digitalization of industries will only happen once in the history of the world. Keep filling your brain with meme garbage. Electronic documents in the English law, the roadmap to digital trade documents. If sustainability and blockchain aren't the biggest buzzwords in trade finance right now, it's MLETR, the model law on electronic transferable records. From IOUs to trade documents, an overview of a 3,000-year-old industry. Sarah Green, everyone. Very smart lady who's been fighting for trade digitalization and adopting an interoperable standard across the globe. Paper will be phased out in the next 5 to 10 years. Inigio, working with the United Nations, the Asian Development Bank. Great conversation about blockchain technology for cross-border trade. I got to witness that. This is what I found. I found this in 2021. March 30th, 2020, ending paper-based trade with the Ministry of Justice, United Kingdom, talking about how DLT and the deployment of smart contracts have enormous potential as an integrated digital solution to close the trade financing gap. With the digitalization of documents, paperless trade is growing in importance. Today, July 20th, MLETR was just brought into Royal Assent. 8 weeks to go until it is full green light. So the UK and Singapore can move digital documents between the nations. And if this is exciting to you guys, if you guys feel like we're at the forefront, go watch my digital trade movies. These are research movies. They took over 13 hours to create this stuff. And it gets just buried. And so I took 6 months off from creating content because I've been building something for the citizens. Something that is going to take all this research and take it just off Twitter and put it in a digestible format. We're gonna blow CoinDesk and these other news outlets out of the water. We're gonna bring the real news from the citizens for the citizens. And, I was taught by my pa, he says, put your head down and build and do what you got to do and then come back and you can share it. Don't jinx it. So that's what I've been doing. If you guys have been wondering where I went, I feel like I've left enough breadcrumbs. This is it, guys. We are entering a new phase of the earth. And I can't tell you enough to start researching right now. This was a major update in February 2026, or February 26, 2022. The Digital Economy Agreement between UK and Singapore, MLETR, digital documents, XDC, G7, G20, ITFA, electronic transferable records. We are seeing a look into digitalization, the global megatrend reshaping industries. English law is changing in 2023, and this citizen has been covering it for multiple years. We're taking from paper. You can't get machine readable data from paper. It's a pain in the arse. But with digital documents, you have a full keyword searchable archive of the metadata on that document that's then in the ledger for life, from the start of the life cycle to the end of the life cycle. Talking about the trade finance gap, people don't realize there's a $5 trillion trade finance gap, which means businesses need at least $5 trillion in funding, but they can't get it because of the banks. The banks are too sketched out, don't have the money, don't have the funding to provide that liquidity to these companies. And if you convert $5 trillion into $1 is equal to 1 second, so we can view this in a perspective of time, that is equal to 157,000 years. Can you imagine 157,000 years with $1? That's how much money is lack of funding in the global system. Years down the road, this trade finance gap will be eliminated by easier access to funding by tokenization and the use of digital documents. G7 document. Guys, here it is, the G7 Ministerial Declaration. Paper-based transactions which still dominate paper trade are moving digital. Here it is. Look at this. January 1st. One day it will be all the global jurisdictions that will use MLETR standard. But it's not a standard. It's a framework. So when I wrote this, I didn't realize the difference between a standard and a framework. Framework is something that the governments will adopt, and then they will base all their digital documents on that framework to make sure the data points are the same, so they're interoperable between whatever system they use. Right here. Check this out, guys. A modern digital trade ecosystem for the 21st century requires national laws to recognize all trade documents in digital form and legal systems to be aligned to enable digital information to move seamlessly across borders and between stakeholders, buyers, sellers, financiers, insurers, shippers, logistics, and customs. Most jurisdictions around the world still require documents that transfer the possession of goods, transferable records, to be presented in paper form. This is because of the Bills of Exchange Act of 1882, and this is why they created MLETR. The ICC is calling on all national governments to create a modern digital trade ecosystem by reforming laws to digitalize trade documents and align legal frameworks to the UNCITRAL model law on electronic transferable records. This supports the G7 framework for collaboration on electronic transferable records, called to do the same, the work of UNCITRAL, which is the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, in promoting MLETR. This is going to increase Commonwealth trade to $2 trillion by 2023. The digital trading system currently operates on antiquated systems and laws, in some cases dating back centuries. That's to the back of Bills of Exchange Act of 1882. A typical trade transaction involves up to 27 documents, 9 of which relate to the transfer of possession, and can cost $80,000 per transaction and take up to 2 to 3 weeks to settle. How does that sound? You know, it's funny. In Canada, they make us get rid of our plastic straws, but they completely ignore how much carbon footprint the global trade system utilizes with paper. They distract us with bullshit, and they shove this under the rug. We're going through a digital transformation. And this is why I've been calling it as a citizen of the future, because when I research this stuff, I'm not focusing on today, I'm not focusing on yesterday, I'm focusing on the future. And I'm trying to wake up as many as you people that are willing to listen and willing to learn yourself to see this. So here's this. Global trade. The keys to the paperless trade revolution are interoperability, harmonization, and the use of DLT. We need digital assets that are interoperable with other digital assets, and we're not looking for digital silos. And if you want to understand what I'm talking about, you can go to my YouTube channel and I'll show you the videos. Watch Global Digitalization Transformation of Trade. Watch Paperless Trade Facilitation Research Breakdown. Massive Global Trade Initiative Update. This is to show how NIGIO, XDC are digitalizing bills of lading and EPUs. Digital transformation enters a new phase. That's a good one too. You can watch all my breakdowns of XDC network. You can see how Industry 4.0 digitalization. Future. And look I break down all the data in an easy to, so you can now watch a video and then you can look and sort of see what you're watching. Utilize this stuff, guys. I spent a lot of time to give you guys the breadcrumbs. Now it's your turn to find the loaf. You can go to the grid. Check this out. If you would have read this in 2022 in July, key takeaways. Global industries are digitalizing process to remove intermediaries, decimate fees, and reduce settlement times. Papers being replaced for global trade with digital documents. A digital trade document revolution. Technology has outpaced regulators, presenting an interesting opportunity. Transformation of industries across the globe require global collaboration standards, which will take time. Interesting Easter egg. Research the UK Digital Economy Agreement, one of the first G7 nations to adopt UNCITRAL MLETR legal framework into legislation to validate electronic transferable records in their trade jurisdiction. So why anyone, no matter what you do as a job, you should find this interesting, because generations have been asleep for the last 50, 70 years. People have been asleep. But this is a new opportunity where DLT is being utilized for global trade, where those tokens, there's only a certain amount of tokens in some of these ecosystems. And the money that's going to flow into here in the next 5 to 10 years is something that we can't even think of how much value is going to be in there. Don't ask me for price predictions. Just do the research. You know, you can buy the same tokens that they're going to be using for these trade transactions, and one day I think it will pay off. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm just sharing my research with you guys. Check this out. High-ranking consortiums and standard-setting bodies in the global trade industry. In the mainstream crypto industry, these influencers, they don't talk to you about who's creating the standards. They don't talk to you about Sullivan and Worcester, Clifford Chance, the law firms. You know, they don't talk to you about the Financial Stability Board, the BIS, the ISO, the G7, the G20. No. What do they teach you about? They teach you about these goddamn meme coins that are absolutely trash. Once regulations come into play, they're gonna get shut down. They're gonna dump their holdings and buy real tokens. Well, you guys are stuck holding these worthless tokens. There's a shitcoin shutdown that's gonna commence. And what I mean by that is you have all these tokens that don't do anything in the real world system. They're not going to make it through the regulations that are set from these guys. So there's a lot of Easter eggs that I put in a lot of my research to try and help you guys that are deep thinkers to see past the bullshit. Because see, the G7 is bringing the same rules right here, remains committed to high regulatory standards for global stablecoins. Tether, USDC, anything that falls under that, following the principle of the same activity, the same risk, and the same regulation. So if you guys think this is going to be a Wild West forever, you're widely mistaken. So ignore those goddamn mainstream YouTubers, these guys that say, oh, Bitcoin, Ethereum are the only solution, blah, 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 buy my shitcoin. Fuck those guys. Dig into the real data. There's some good researchers out there. And dig through my profile. I've left a lot of Easter eggs. Check out Genfinity, all the research reports. It breaks it down. I break down digitalization of the UK economy and 5 important connections to the grid. This is what we're witnessing. The UK is the first G7 country towards digitalization of their economy. They're utilizing UNCITRAL MLETR for the framework for the digital documents. Once this framework, they've had a digital handshake agreeing on the same rules to the same digital highways between Singapore and the UK. And well, what does that mean? It means businesses in the UK will be able to flawlessly transact with businesses in Singapore without utilizing paper. Imagine all the mail trade flows that you have to take paper. I once had to send 2 documents to my brother who was in Panama to ship that there in a 10-day time with no guarantee whether it was going to be 10 days or 15 days. It cost me $140 Canadian. $140 with no tracking when it was going to get there. Well, with a signature on that side, but no guarantee. But if we utilize a DLT for a global trade with a smart contract, we can get a verified original document to the other side of the world in 4 seconds for a fraction of a penny. So, the future of trade. Regionalism, multilateralism, and the new trade order. Commercial trade documents are going digital. And then the ICC, by creating a globally harmonized, digitalized trade environment, we can take global trade from analog to digital with the ICC Digital Standards Initiative. Tectonic shifts and the drivers of digital trade. So, ignore the noise. Citizens, we need to unite. We need to share our research. We need to wake as many people up to this transformation. The mainstream media doesn't talk about this stuff because they're owned by the 1%. The 1% are profiting from the current broken supply chain, the current broken banking system with the high fees and the high costs, they control, they are in the power for a reason. They're delaying it as much as possible so they can milk as much money out of this system as possible. So why do I share my research? Why do I try and help you guys and spend this time to share it? Is because I hope my research sparks a fire in each and every one of you. If you're still watching this, I hope it sparks a fire, because I've seen what the mainstream media did to my pa, my best friend, my grandpa. It sucked his will to live. It caused nothing but fear mongering and hate and misery. But what do I create? I create research on the real news, on the data, to try and inspire and help bring others to the finish line. That one day I see, one day we're gonna these tokens of these specific assets are gonna retire me and my family for many generations, and I would like to have that opportunity for any other one out there that's willing to spend that time digging. So we are at the start of a new digital era. Watch the UK as they are the leaders in creating the standards for a digital economy. The rest of the G7 and G20 will follow after they prove the benefits of economic digitalization. The readers should picture crypto ecosystem as puzzle pieces. After regulation, if a DLT network doesn't fit the standard setter's puzzle, it will not connect with the grid, the digital monetary system. You don't want to be a citizen that goes through the fourth industrial revolution distracted by meme coins. Research ecosystems that provide real-world utility and also meet regulatory expectations of standard-setting bodies. That's the ones in the picture at the top. And make sure you understand MLETR is an important piece of legislation reform that the governments can adopt to utilize and update the Bills of Exchange Act of 1882 to validate electronic transferable records in a trade transaction. So, that's a big rundown. Let me just find a visual here I want to show you before we get going. Okay. The sun never sets in the Commonwealth because the Commonwealth is so vast and big across the world. So what happens in the UK will be adopted around the world. 80% of the world uses English law for global trade rules. My advice, whatever country you're in, keep your eyes on the UK. A new era for digitalization. This was November 18th, 2022, and I spoke about this even before that in the ends of 2021. October 19th, 2022, another one. UK is the king of the G7. It's the leader of the world. Where do they get the law from? They create it. They create the regulations. They create Canada, United States. We follow English law. We follow them. The unspoken secrets of society. The Bank of England is one of the largest world's reshaping reforms in the financial market infrastructures. And now this is a treat to, if you're this far, you deserve to see this. I just showed you how they're adopting this framework in the G7 in the UK to digitalize their economy. Now look at this. You take that, once they have this legislation, green light, approved and ready, businesses are starting to utilize it. Well, guess what? Since it's the leader of the whole economic power structure of the world, you ever hear of copy paste? So I made this back then, where I found a document that said there was 40% of the world uses English law. But I actually heard, that it was in a webinar, but they said 80% of the world uses English law. I almost shit a brick because I was like, holy fuck, this is a vast transformation and nobody is aware. Yet here I am talking to my computer screen to try and inspire you guys by showing you the evidence that I've dug up. Here are some of the Commonwealth realms. And well, guess what? There's this paperless trade transformation happening. And there you can see the hand that pulls the strings is the Queen and the King. Here's all the rest of the 56 countries. Well, once it's in law in England, well, guess what? Copy paste, baby. Canada will one day approve it, make their modifications. The British Empire, Belize, Tuvalu, whatever, Australia, Jamaica, Barbados, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea. Do you see? And now think about this. Right now we're currently siloed. Global trade is super broken, slow, outdated, expensive, robbing all of us citizens by they have to charge. They're putting the fees somewhere, and it's not them paying for the fees. It's us by paying a higher price. With trade digitalization, it will cut our fees back at least 40% for what we have to pay for global trade flows. Imagine that. 40% of the value of the cost, what it costs to run the system. So, well, this is long enough. Citizens, I want to say that it's been an honor, and that I hope you guys inspire not just yourselves, but others to dig into it, because everyone's asleep. We're not taught to learn about the financial system. We're taught to be distracted by materialistic things, hate the rest of the citizens because people are doing and looking better than us. But it's not about that. I'm trying to start a wave of citizens out there that look past this narrative that we are taught, and just dig, and that's it. So thanks for watching, and please leave some comments. I hope you're excited, because I sure am, and it's such an honor to be able to bring this to you guys. When, you know, I've been posted, and I know some of you have been paying attention, and that's the honor, and to see how many messages that I get that are saying, that are thankful for this research, that are saying, hey, I love seeing these connections. Well, thank you. Put your comments. Make sure you share this. Follow me on Twitter, and let's do a big hoorah to being here to see the digitalization bill for electronic trade documents and global trade in the G7 nations start coming to. Shout out to Matthew Linney, shout out to Tokenizer, shout out to Researcher XX, the ICC, Andre Casterman, XDC Network, Morpheus Network, Cargo X. This transformation is coming, and we're at the forefront. Cheers. I will see you next time. Citizen of the future, out.